I'm sure you're all very aware, many of my recent videos have revolved around debunking conspiracy theories that giants exist. Now that I am comfortably settled back into my home in Maine for school, I've decided I'm going to cover something a little bit more fun, and that is one of my favorite archaeological hoaxes of all time, the Cardiff Giant. This big fella right here is the Cardiff Giant. This 10-foot tall behemoth was found in the backyard of a barn in New York State, and the man who discovered it used it as evidence to prove that giants had once walked the earth. And a lot of people believed him. They believed him so much, actually, that he was able to make quite a small fortune off of showing it off. The man who discovered the giant set up a tent over its remains and charged about $5 in today's money for people to come see it. And it was so profitable in the first day that he doubled the price to just about $10 for people just to come look at it. But the scientific world was skeptical. First person to analyze it and realized that it was probably fake was a geologist, who realized that there is no way a man can be petrified like this because that's not how rocks work. But for some reason he still didn't think it was a fake. He just assumed that it was carved a couple hundred years earlier by a priest in order to impress the local indigenous people. And then a paleontologist from Yale got involved, and he figured out that it was just made of a giant block of gypsum. Gypsum, which he correctly pointed out would not still have tool marks in it if it had been buried for several hundred years. Quickly people were like, wait a second, this is definitely not a real giant. But like most stories like this, the truth behind it is actually far more interesting than the hoax. The giant was the brainchild of a creationist named George Hull, who had an argument with an atheist about whether or not giants once walked the earth, as discussed in Genesis. Now, he was not very happy about the conversation he had with this atheist, so he did this. So he combined his spite towards science as well as a newspaper article he read containing a story about a miner who drank water from a geode and then calcified, and decided to craft one of the best archaeological hoaxes of all time. So Hull had a 10-foot tall piece of gypsum quarried for him in Iowa, but he was very dedicated to his hoax and he didn't want anyone to know what he was doing, so he told all of the mine workers that he was using it to make a giant statue of Abraham Lincoln. But he didn't do that. But instead he had the block shipped to Chicago and turned into this by a stonecutter who he made take a vow of secrecy. But these guys were dedicated. They used needles and small tools in order to make it look like the giant had pores on him. They stained it with a bunch of different acids and stuff so it looked older. I mean, these people were dedicated to this craft. And then Hull spent $50,000 in today's money shipping this gigantic piece of stone back to his home in New York State. The giant was then buried behind a barn, and it remained there for a year. Then in 1869, Hull had two people go back there to dig a well where they conveniently found a giant petrified man. But the giant was popular, so popular in fact that P.T. Barnum made an illegitimate fake of it, which I guess is a fake of a fake, and then displayed it and made money off it, which is like double fraud. Fraud squared. But the ruse was short-lived, as the giant was discovered in October of 1869, and it was revealed as a fraud by the man himself in December of 1869, so cracked under pressure pretty quickly. Thanks for listening, and I hope to have more videos out soon.
Does that actually work?
Let's find out.
Alright, so we gotta take the pen here and you can take off the top. And once we have the top off, we just need to cut off the end just like that. Alright, so now all we gotta do is pour the water in the plate like that. Alright, and then I just blow on this end, and I just dip it in. Oh my gosh, it actually worked!
Okay, so today, I've decided to dissolve my wiener in acid. I'm not just going to be using any acid, though, and I'm going to be using something special called piranha solution. It's a hot and angry mixture of sulfuric acid and hydrogen peroxide, and I basically just have to drop it in. It almost immediately turns black, and this is all carbon. Now, if I add some more peroxide, I can vaporize the carbon and turn it into CO2 gas. I think it's pretty obvious, but I'm still going to mention that this is extremely dangerous. If any of this splashed on me, it would do something very similar, which wouldn't be super pleasant. It eventually looked like there was barely any of it left, and it was just a sad little meat noodle. Then, over the next 30 seconds or so, it calmed down, and it was ready for another wiener.
Everybody has that one conspiracy theory that they know is true, and mine is that Dr. Pepper is a combination of cola and root beer. So Dr. Pepper was invented in 1885 by Charles Pemberton at Morrison's Old Corner Drugstore in Waco, Texas. Coca-Cola doesn't come out until 1886, and Dr. Pepper claims they're the oldest major soda brand in America, which might be true, but there were several other brands that were already popular at the time. They say Charles Alderton, while he was working at the pharmacy, had a passion for combining different sodas together. So how does Dr. Pepper get to 23 flavors? My theory is that there's roughly 12 botanicals and aromatics inside root beer, and probably 11 of those inside a Coke, and all Alderton did was combine those two together. And if you do not believe me, take 2 parts Coke, 1 part root beer, drink it, and tell me that isn't Dr. Pepper. I'm not crazy. I swear to God, it is uncanny how similar they are. If you don't believe me, try it yourself, stitch this video. If you own a laboratory with a spectrometer, sound off in the comments because we need to start testing something. The truth is out there, Dr. Pepper, I'm on to you. Where'd you even go to medical school?
Since the sun is heating up the Earth, why don't we use satellites and the International Space Station to push the Earth into the opposite direction? If we create more distance between the two planets, the UV rays wouldn't be as strong anymore and would help the Earth cool down, ending global warming.
Are you dumb?
I think she's dumb. I think she's dumb. Are you, like, medically speaking?
A month ago, my Jupiter made its TikTok debut, and it got 1.7 million views and over 1,000 comments just like this one of people trying to figure out what the heck this thing is. And I'm finally done gatekeeping. It's time to put you guys on. This is called a MOVA globe, and it doesn't use cords, doesn't need batteries, literally uses light and Earth's magnetic field in order to rotate. This thing is dope. You can get your favorite planet, and they just sent me a brand new one. I'm excited to see what it is. Woo, let's go!
Running my guitar through ice.